Hello.
Hey,
What's up?
not much, man.
Who do we have the pleasure of speaking with?
My name is Matthew.
Matthew. Where you from? How'd you grow up, Matthew?
I'm from Southern Maryland, but I spent my summers here in Baltimore, at my grandparents' house. How'd I grow up? Idyllic childhood. Other than my stepdad. A pretty idyllic childhood, except for the abuse. You know,
The abuse. What type of abuse did you experience?
my stepfather was he was an abusive drunk. He was to the Board of Education, and apparently his work life was perfect, but his home life was pretty rough.
That abuse, was it mental, physical, verbal?
And it was all three. It was all three. Daily beatings. Beating my mom. Beating me. Beat my older brother until my older brother was big enough to fight back. And he left when I was 14. He joined the Air Force, and I didn't see him again until I was 21. So, yeah, it was physical, mental. I didn't even know he wasn't my dad until I was 13. We had a huge fight. My mom told me, "That's not your dad. Your dad's somewhere else. You can't be right here."
Have you ever met your biological dad?
I met him a couple of times when my mom told me when I was about 17, she said, you had court with your father today. And I told the judge I didn't want to pursue the child support case anymore because your father had come to court with papers from his doctor saying he had terminal cancer. And it was in his lymph nodes. He died about 3 months later. So I did go see him a few times. I got really upset with him, so I figured now he knows me, he's going to want a relationship with me. But at the time, I was like a wild kid. I had a mohawk. My girlfriend had a big blonde mohawk. I was riding a motorcycle. Spikes on my jacket. I didn't think of how antisocial that would come off to a guy that I'm just showing up like, hey, I'm your son, come love me. It didn't go well. I mean, he saw me a couple of times. But he didn't call me back after that, and I let it go, and I let it go too long. When I finally called up there, my grandmother said, I said, hello, can I speak to Russell? She was Irish. Grandma smiled, and she said, hello, who's this? Russell? Russell doesn't live here anymore. Russell's dead. That's when I found out my dad died. And then about a month and a half later, my stepdad shot himself in the head in my mom's bedroom. So, yeah, that happens.
Do you have any children of your own?
I do. I have a son in Thailand. I have a daughter in New Orleans, and I have a daughter in Huntsville, Alabama.
What's your relationship with your kids like?
Strained. Not what it should be. I've let them down. I experienced this. I experienced gang stalking, which sounded like lunacy to most people when I came back from Thailand. I don't really like to explain it because it sounds like I'm nuts, because it's a very hard thing to define. That's the genius of it. But I experienced a lot of what could only be some type of local or state government. Nobody has resources to do the things that were done to me for a period of about 3 years. And that combined with my own shame, the stress from that, combined with my own shame and my drug use, has led me to lead a myopic life. Doing shit like, I used to work for NASA. I used to work at Goddard Space Flight Center. Digging through burned out buildings for useful scrap. I fear most of society. I fear everyone's intentions. Like when you came up and took the picture, I was like, what's this guy doing? He's in captain. It's an unfriendly way to be. I've recently decided that I was going to was going to be polite to all people. Look, you're the first person to cross my path today, and I was not polite to you. I decided I was going to be the change, regardless of how people treat me. I got a long way to go.
How long did you work in NASA?
Okay, about 5 years. No high school education. Worked in a landfill before that. But I had been in the Army when I was younger. And the guy who did my interview as a prior Vietnam vet and 2 voluntary combat tours. And, he told me if I promised I wouldn't leave, he would train me there. This company called EDS. And he was true to his word, and I was true to mine. I stayed until he was gone. But I got NASA has this thing called dual redundancy. Every computer's got a computer behind it and another one behind it. So if one fails, nothing fails. It's just the machine breaks and the other machine takes its up its slack. So my job was such that I just waited for things to break. And computers are such these days, they don't often break. Especially ones that NASA buys. So I was a stupid kid, and I was in my late 20s. No, I was in my mid to early 30s. I should have appreciated that job. I should have honored that position. I should have kissed the fucking ground that guy walked on. Really, I came from nothing. I left in that 8th grade of high school. I left because my dad was so abusive. Slept in tobacco barns until I could join the Army. I didn't have anything. This guy had no reason to hire me other than he said it looked like I was trying to turn my life around. And I got complacent. And familiarity breeds contempt, they say. And I was familiar with the job, and I started coming in later and later. People didn't notice. But what they did notice was at the meetings when I wasn't there to say, hey, this is cool. I want to do this. I want to work on that project. And so I didn't get asked to come back one year, because there are other people that were interested, and I was too busy taking ecstasy, sitting in my storeroom, like, fuck it, they don't need me. I'm just here taking a paycheck. I deserve to get fired, but I wish I hadn't.
How'd you get introduced to ecstasy?
Oh shit! Used to be this disco in DC called Trax. It was a gay disco. I would go up there every Friday night with my friends. Friday or Saturday night, and I had just heard about it, hear about drugs, and then I was selling LSD at the time. The opportunity came up. Some guy wanted a quarter sheet, and he had 15 pills of E. Said he'd trade me, and so I traded it. Took it. I liked it. So I haven't done it in a while. It tends to cause depression after a few days. It drains your serotonin.
How old were you when that was?
When I first took it?
Mm-hmm.
I was about 18, I'd say. I was about 20 the first time I took ecstasy. I was 16 the first time I took LSD. Funny thing, my dad died of lymphatic cancer. In April, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. So my dad's lymph nodes. Cancer killed him was in his throat, and now I've got cancer in my throat. But it's caused by HPV, my doctors say, and they say it's the most curable or the most responsive to chemotherapy. So it looks good. But, what did I chemo today? But then we scheduled for next Wednesday. But I've got my first psychiatrist appointment as an adult person that scheduled their own appointment. That's today. See how that goes.
Interesting. I know you mentioned earlier that you lived in Thailand.
I did.
How long did you live there for?
15 years.
What was that like?
I never would come back.
What do you mean?
It was like the longest, most beautiful, eternal July or August day you had when you were a kid. It just stretches out for fucking ever. Hot and sweat's running off of you, man. And like drinks are ice cold and everything's lovely. Everything's beautiful.
What were you doing there?
I was teaching. Living with my son and my wife. Yeah, I had a great job. Then I got arrested.
For what?
I for crystal methamphetamine.
Were you using or selling?
Using. Half a gram. I got 2.5 years in Thornbury Remand Prison in Bangkok.
2.5 years for how much?
For half a gram.
Wow.
Every day of it. Because you're a foreigner, you have no address, you have no place to go when you get out. So you got no guarantees, so they don't give you time off for good behavior, they don't give you anything. But the warden, I gotta tell you, man, the warden, the last day I was there, on my way out, he said, I have gift for you, nah? I taught when I was in school. Like when I first got to prison, then they said to me after about the second day, they called me Teacher Max. I told them I was a teacher. They said, Teacher Matt, yak tamalai. What do you want to do for work? I was like, work? I was like, this is prison, bro. I'm not doing shit. Fuck you guys. I'm gonna sit here and just wait my time and leave. What else do you do in prison? Oh, fuck this shit. I'm not part of this shit. You guys do this shit thing. I'm not doing it. And the guards were, satan too. They said, don't fuck with the white dude. He's American, and we don't want to mess with the American embassy. They don't want to have any problems with the embassy. So in that, I was lucky because the guards wouldn't mess with me. I mean, I didn't do anything asinine. I didn't give any problems, but the guards didn't mess with me. I didn't mess with the guards. The inmates there didn't mess with me either. And after about a week of that, I felt like, you're being a dick, man. All these guys were like slaving, literally. It's slave labor in here, and you're sitting on your ass like doing nothing because you can. I couldn't do that, so I told them I was going to start teaching. And then I started laughing. They're like, what are you going to teach? I'm like, I'm going to teach English. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You can't do that. I was like, yeah, I can. I want some paper and pencils. They gave me some little broken stubs of pencils, and the copy of paper had been copied on both sides, But the old, excuse me. It's a lot of fun. The old warden left, and the new warden came in, and the new warden had been educated in Plymouth, England, so he spoke English, and he was pleased that I was done to teach. So he gave me supplies, and I taught for 2.5 years English to these inmates, and some of them were quite good. The last day I got out of prison, they were supposed to remand me to the custody of Thai immigration and Thai immigration, so they would deport me. But they didn't come. He let me go. He let me walk out of the prison with other prisoners. He gave me 24 hours to go see my son, which was really kind of him. My Facebook picture is me in front of a police box that day. Like, I can't believe I'm out taking a photo of myself. But soon after, the American embassy and my old boss began to call me like nonstop. He was fearing for his job. He was a government employee, so I turned myself in. Even that was pretty amazing. I turned myself into the police station I was arrested at. And then I walked in there and said to the cop, I'm like, hello, I'm Swaddy Cop. He's like, He's like, what do you want, white dude? I said, you arrested me 2.5 years ago, remember? He's like, He's like, you're smoking Tina. I was like, yeah, that's me. He said, come on. I said, you got to take me to immigration. He's like, oh, my ow. He's like, I don't want this. He's like, it's 5 o'clock. He's like, I'm going home. He's like, you have money? I was like, yeah. He's like, you go stay in a hotel tonight by yourself. So he sent me to the hotel. I went and stayed by myself. In the morning I went to see him. They took me to immigration. The U.S. Embassy had me home about a week later.
Were you doing drugs the whole 15 years you were there?
I've done drugs most of my life, yeah. Central nervous system stimulants mostly. Yeah. I recently convinced my doctor to put me on medical amphetamines, Vyvanse, because I don't want to smoke amphetamines anymore, which is the way I consume them, and it's not healthy for me. I quit smoking in prison in Thailand. It's the single greatest exertion of will I've ever done in my life. It's for my mom's birthday. And then you could smoke in the prison in Thailand. An ounce, 10 cents would give you an ounce packet of tobacco, Smoking everywhere.
How long have you been prescribed the pills that you say you're taking now?
Vyvanse. They're like Adderall. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Addies. They're mixed amphetamine salts, but they are a type that's been engineered to be less prone to abuse. You can only eat them. You can't snort them. You can't shoot them up. You can't boof them or anything. It requires your stomach acid to activate the medicine. So they're an extended release amphetamine tablet, and they do the trick for me. They keep me focused. I don't feel strange without them. I don't feel strange when I have them. I feel strange when I don't have them. So it's cut my amphetamine intake. It's my illicit amphetamine intake. I'd say by at least half. I'm shooting for totally. You know, I want to start, as soon as my chemo's done, I want to start running again. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be broken. I don't want to be useless to society. I don't want my kids to despise me. I want my mom to see me stand on my own 2 feet for once in my life, you know. Yeah, it's important.
Do you think you'll be able to do that alone?
I don't know, man. I don't like being alone. But the way I've been treated for the last several years has really alienated me. Everyone I come in contact with, I become hostile with them eventually because they all lack sincerity. I can feel it, I can sense it. I can sense it, you don't, actually. So I'm willing to talk to you. Every person I've met in the last 5 years here, after 3 years or 4 years here, not every one of them, but most of them. There's always something in the relationship that I'm like, there's something going on. You're not telling me. And I'm not prone to being paranoid. I'm not prone to wild ideas about people. But do I think I can do it alone? I'll do it if I have to. My mom is first in my heart. Sorry, kids. She's never failed to support me, even in my craziest times. So, yeah, I'll do it for my mom, or I'll die trying.
How often do you get to communicate with your mom now?
As often as I call her. You know, I spoke to her last night. My mom's lovely, and I don't know how I'll survive her not being here. So I'm trying now to change. I'm actively trying to be different.
Are you currently taking any illicit drugs?
Yeah, I am. My girlfriend, what are you looking at, dude? Why are you looking at me? Come over here, talk to me. Nuts. Sorry, there's a guy behind you that was hiding behind a telephone pole, peering at me. Yeah, my girlfriend, who I've tried to love for like the last 5 years, and she has just been very resistant to that. I don't know where she is. She's got her own traumas in her past. She started to demand that I give her ketamine. I couldn't really afford it because I didn't have customers for it. Then she started to demand I give her heroin. It's more affordable, I give her the money for it. Then I ended up buying it for her. Then I ended up doing it. Now I've got a small habit. Something I don't even like. When I see my doctor this week or next week, I'm going to ask him if I can go to detox while I'm doing chemo, because fuck this shit. I do not like it. And I think I can probably get through it myself. I go about 24. I went 24 hours yesterday without anything, and towards the end of it, I started feeling ill, but it's not that big a deal. When you see heroin addicts and they're like, "Oh man, help me! I'm ill. I'm sick. I'm sick." What they're saying to you is they've got explosive diarrhea. When I found that out, I'm like, all these years I thought these people were like racked with pain and shit. No, they have diarrhea. This is pathetic.
So how long have you been doing heroin for so far?
About 3 months. It's
3 months?
I do not like it. It does nothing for me.
Have you ever OD'd off of it in the 3 months?
I did heroin in Thailand. I mean, it was real heroin and had euphoric effects. Occasionally I would smoke it. I enjoyed it. Here, now they don't have, it's difficult to find real heroin. They have fentanyl. I'm gonna grab my jacket out of my car. I'm a little cold, sorry. Sorry.
We're back. No, I asked, in the 3 months time that you started doing heroin, have you ever overdosed?
No, but someone did murder me about 2 years ago. Unfortunately, he revived me, but he ended up killing his girlfriend. It's a sad, fucked up state of affairs.
What happened?
I had a friend. I became friends with her because I recognized her last name. It's common in southern Maryland. Tobacco farming family. Farm family, definitely. I went to high school with some of her cousins. She was from Calvert County. I was from southern Anne Arundel County. Anyway, I recognized her last name, so I spoke to her. I fell into an affinity for her. She would purchase amphetamines from me. I would go to be at her house. She worked for the VA. She's like the best among us. I'd literally go to her house. She'd be on the Oculus Rift, fielding calls for the VA. She was a pharmacist that handled like the marketing and the PR stuff. Does this cause a conflict with our soldiers or our clients? She's fucking brilliant. She'd be on the Oculus Rift, fielding a call to the VA, painting a picture, and playing on the guitar all simultaneously while she was high. And like, it was, she could do all this stuff at once and keep it all together. And her boyfriend did nothing. He just spent her money, spent her checks. Just became a spoiled brat. And anyway, crystal meth helped me stop smoking crack. And I was a terrible crackhead. I hated myself on crack, and I couldn't stop. And I would do things I hated myself for. Stole my grandmother's jewelry that she gave to my mom, her inheritance, and sold it. I despise myself for that shit. I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed of that. You know? I mean, they're just things. But they were my mother's things that her mother gave me anyway. I had no right to do that shit. But I couldn't control myself at the time. And crystal meth greatly, it knocked all the valleys and all the peaks that crack cocaine gives its users. It just made them flat. And that made me able to control it. So after about 4 months of not smoking crack, I wanted to go to Jamie's house. Because her boyfriend smoked crack like you breathe air. And I wanted to see if I could control myself. And I stayed there for about, 4 hours. During that time, she came to me and told me, "Hey, did you hear that I died last night?" You know, she's like, "Yeah, me and Lisa. We smoked some crack at my cat, and apparently it had fentanyl on it. And we both went out, and Mike revived us." It's fucked up. It's weird hearing that. I'm glad you're alright. I stayed there the whole night. I stayed there until I was convinced that I had, done my duty to myself. And I got up to leave. I remember this guy says to me, "You want to hit crack?" And I thought, oh, there's the test, isn't it? Could you do it and walk away after just one? I was like, yeah. You know what? Fuck it. Give me one. And I remember the piece that he gave me. It was so small. It was so small. It would be something that I would be embarrassed to offer you. It was something like that. You know, like, and I was something I would throw on the floor. And I thought to myself, I'm like, God, you're cheap, man. But whatever. I put it on the pipe, I took a hit. Next thing I know, I was being woken up by some immense pressure on my jaw. You know, I was fighting against it. What it was a knee of the EMT on my jaw while he stuck a needle in my artery in my neck. My friend Felicia, who was there, said that she's never seen anything like it. She said it was the scariest thing, Matt. You took the hit and your arms locked in rigor mortis, and you didn't even exhale. You just fell over on your side. And she said she gave me CPR for about 20 minutes. She was screaming at the guy that gave me the crack. You know, help me, please, help me. She's like 97 pounds. You know, I'm 185. And she's, poor thing. She was really panic stricken. Finally, the guy that did it to me claimed it was an accident. The guy that did it to me, finally he started to help, and the medics came in like 2 minutes later. So he took me to the hospital. I remember I had 2 ounces of product in my pocket. And this is my money. It's not the only money I had. And in the hospital, the security guards found it and he took it. And I was flipping out. I called my friends up. Well, I wanted my phone. The hospital had my phone. The doctor came in and she said, look, it's gone. You know, I'm not going to call the cops, but it's gone. So say goodbye to your shit. And if you settle down, I tell you what, if you settle down, I'll give you your phone back. If you stay here until I discharge you. Because the efficacy of the Narcan, it doesn't exceed that of the fentanyl. And while you're awake now, you could walk down the street and fall down dead. While the Narcan wears off, you could die. So I need to keep you here. So I agreed. I called my friend at 3 in the morning and said, look, I died. I was murdered. Could you come get me at the hospital? Bastard, by 7 a.m., he still hadn't come because he was getting high. I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't have any shoes for some reason. I didn't have any shoes. I had to walk home without any shoes. I'm up here on like 30th Street, down county on 25th.
How long ago was that?
It's about 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So the next day, his wife died and they didn't revive her. He was the beneficiary of her insurance policy and a couple other things. He thought he was going to keep her house. He didn't. There was some hinky stuff about timings of things. And there was a letter I found. That was from her to him. It said, Mike, you have been in my savings. Now you're into my credit. So you've spent like 30-something thousand of my dollars, and I need you to pay it back. It was like a legal letter, you know. It stated the dates and the times and the amounts over a period of like 2 years that she wanted her money paid back. And if you don't pay it, make it like it was, baby. If you don't, then I'm gonna have to take legal action against you. And I really hope you'll do that. And I showed that to a couple people there. They had known about that. I didn't know that. They knew about that. When her mom came up, I helped. I asked her mom, "Do you need help cleaning her house out? You know, do you need help catching the pets or whatever?" And she did. She was alone, so I helped her box all Jamie's stuff. And she said, "You know, if this had happened in the county, it would be investigated." But the medic told me. The medic said to me, he said, "Look." He said, I don't have time for this shit. When he revived me, and he told me I was dead, I was like, what are you talking about? Being a smart ass. And he said, I don't have fucking time for you, man. He said, I'm gonna get another 10 calls in the next hour. People are dying. And you're here like wasting my time. He said, you get in this van with me and you come to the hospital because of the Narcan efficacy thing. He's like, I don't have time for this. Other people are dying. I need to go save them.
Currently here in Baltimore, what's a bigger problem? Substance abuse or homelessness?
They go hand in hand. The stigma that has been associated with drug use over the last 40 years, you know, like it's been a war on Americans. That's what it's been. It's it's been putting the poorest of us, the most disenfranchised of us, in prison for lifetimes. Destruction of families, fathers gone, brothers gone. Like, it's a fucking joke. Yet the legal, the accepted, entrenched drug, alcohol and tobacco, biggest killers in the world, kill more than every war we've ever had. They're accepted, they're fine, they're okay. The government has its infrastructure in place, it gets its tax money. We die, they make more of us. It's bullshit. So homelessness, a lot of people have got, there's more homeless, let me tell you something. Oh, look at that. There are more homeless people, there are more empty homes in the city of Baltimore than there are homeless people. Probably by 2 or 3 times. I know this because I was driving for Lyft. I was driving a taxi here when I got back from Thailand. And you go in any block, you go down from Greenmount Avenue here, you go down MLK, or you go over the west side, and you see these buildings that got red diamonds on them. Those are houses slated for destruction. They'll let those houses fall into the ground before they'll let a homeless person stay there. Just like this place. This place, it could have been a nice place. It had water, it had power, it had infrastructure. It wasn't in that bad a shape. There were people that wanted to, that had the motivation to stay and fix it.
What do you think will fix the problem in Baltimore of substance abuse and homelessness?
I think when I was a kid in the 80s, Baltimore had, I believe it was his first African-American mayor, I'm not sure, but his name was Kurt Schmoke, and he was very forward-thinking. One of his ideas was to just decriminalize all drugs, and I think it would be such a. People shouldn't be stigmatized because they want to escape their mundane, shitty lives. They're allowed to drink. Why shouldn't people be allowed to take amphetamines or smoke weed? Or, when I was a kid, if you got busted with a joint, man, you could do a couple years. It's bullshit. It's utter fucking bullshit. I think that decriminalization of drugs for people would go a long way, and I think that the city has a current program. It's called Values to Vacancy, where they will give you a home for $1. Plus, I think they'll give you like $60,000 in credit towards that home if you can prove you have a $90,000 line of credit. If you have a $90,000 line of credit, you get shit. But there's all these homes that are literally falling the hell down that I'm quite capable of going in and fixing them with 1 or 2 of my friends, like completely renovating them and being able to live in them. Taking a house that is of no value to anyone, that's falling down, and making it a home in a community. By the sweat of my brow, I can do that here. I can't if I can afford the house for $1, but I can't get that $90,000 line of credit. So it's only people that are financially in a good position already. It does shit for poor people. So, I mean, I don't mean to sound bitter, but really, fuck, it does nothing for anyone poor.
Matthew, going back to your 16-year-old self, because no one knows Matthew like Matthew knows Matthew. Okay. What would you have told yourself to make you never use drugs a day in your life?
At 16, it was already too late. What would I have told myself?
How old were you the first time you used drugs?
14.
14. So take it back to 14. When you were 14 years old, what would you have told yourself for you to never use drugs a day in your life?
I don't know if I was capable of listening to myself. I don't know that I regret my drug use. I regret having to hide it. I regret that causes erratic behavior in a person. I regret lying to my mom about it. I regret that stuff, the behaviors that it's caused in me. I don't know that I would say I regret my drug use. I may have done it anyway. given the best of circumstances. I think that I would have done it anyway. It's not the fact that I have used drugs that bothers me. It's the fact that I felt I didn't have any other options. No. You know, my stepdad, I had to. I was going to this church for a while. It was a Pentecostal church. I mean, I thought these people were insane when I first went there. And but they did everything that I thought a Christian ought to do. They did exactly what the Bible said. They skipped no stones. They talked about everything from husband and wife's duties to each other, like sexual things. They talked about everything. They did stuff like this guy Dave. He took this homeless guy home. He'd bum change off him after church every day. And Dave would be like, "I'll take you to Denny's. I'll buy you food. I'll buy you whatever you want." Eventually took this guy home with him and let him live in his house with his wife and kids, like 5, 6, 7 years, and totally changed this guy's life, like just by his belief in God and his love for this person. Like, he did not leave this guy under any circumstances. He went a mile for that guy. That guy eventually changed. Like, he got a job, he got a girlfriend, he got engaged to her, he bought a house. He's a pastor in that church now. It's like crazy. Like, this guy was like a derelict bum. And that church, I ended up having to leave because they had some questions they couldn't answer for me, but I didn't have this strong way in me. I got in my head, I was thinking about my dad, and my stepdad, my dad, the guy who raised me. And I hated him so much for killing himself. It just decimated my family. And my pastor said to me, he said, "Listen, how's that hate doing for you? How's your dad? How's your relationship with your dad?" I was like, I hate him so much, man. I hate him. He's like, it's like you picked up this big ass stone, man, and you put it on your back. He's like, your hate's not doing anything to him. He's gone. He'll never come back. And that should happen to you, but you don't have to carry the stone around your whole life, man. It's crushing you. You need to learn to forgive him. You have to forgive him. And it finally came to me one day, I was thinking about it, and I was praying about it, and I just thought to myself, there was a time when that guy was, when he was somebody's boy. And there was no bad thing in him. No meanness, no cruelty, no malice. No desire to drink himself into a stupor and beat the shit out of his stepkid, None of that was in him. It was a time when that was him. Just somebody's little boy. Somebody had to do that to him. Somebody had to cause that pain in him. Something crushed his spirit so badly. And he didn't know how to deal with it. Our society doesn't teach us how to deal with stuff like that. It doesn't teach us the right values.
If you could say something right now to motivate someone to be the best them they could be, what would you say to them?
Always follow your heart. Your intuition is always right. If it tells you to stand, you stand. If it tells you to run, you run. Search yourself. Your heart will always tell you what to do. It's never wrong. Listen to your parents.
I like that. And with that being said, Matthew, we want to thank you for your time. We want to thank you for your honesty. And most importantly, we want to thank you for your story. We're definitely praying for you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.